This video is going to be the part 3 in a series I'm calling Roaming the Open World. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 new points when it comes to roaming the open world black zone here in Albion Online, and all of these tips coming together can help you become better and master the art of roaming in the Outlands. The 3 points we're going to be talking about today is going to be best builds for roaming, best and worst locations to roam, and the best gathering node practices when you are trying to gather some of the treasure nodes that spawn in the Outlands when you are doing gathering. Going over the first point, I just want to express that these are not going to be the only builds that work for open world. There are tons of builds in this game that can work and tons of diversity across the board for different builds that you can put together. These are relatively some of the best builds for solo and small group players that I've been running and I see ran everywhere, and they work well in most situations. So I'm going to run over to my bank chest and we're going to open up the chest that I prepared to show you guys all of the different builds. So to start off here, we have the 4 helmets, which is going to be Mage Cowl, Fiend Cowl, Hunter Hood, or Scholar Cowl. Most of the time, you're going to be switching between these 3. The 4th one is a situational one. Once you get a little more comfortable, you can try running Scholar Cowl. But with Mage Cowl, we are always, on all of these, we're always going to take more damage. And then we're going to be using Poison. With the Fiend Cowl, it has a Purge ability, which purges buffs from enemies. This can be used to take away Mercenary Jacket buffs, Hellion Jacket buffs. It could take away people's boots. There's a lot of different things that Purge can do to help you in the open world, whether it is chasing or getting away from people. Hunter Hood had a recent rework, so it has Retaliate, which conjures a magical barrier increasing your damage resistance, as well as it reflects 100% of the damage you take. So this right here, for a lot of burst builds that are trying to kill you in the span of a couple seconds, this right here can make or break the living in that situation. So this is a really good helmet that if you can get down and know the right timing for using it, you can take down a lot of builds that are stronger than you. Like a lot of people that are out IPing you, this helmet can be their downfall if they're not paying attention. So these are a lot of the good ones for the helmets. We have the jackets. I'm always going to recommend Assassin Jacket. The Invis Ambush is just so strong. You can de-aggro mobs. You could turn invisible, and if you take damage, you won't be revealed. You can use it to juke people out. You can use it to reset cooldowns. So you're invisible for 8 seconds. That's 8 seconds that you're waiting for cooldowns, maybe on your weapon or for any of your armor pieces. Next one is Mercenary Jacket. This one is situational. It works with only a couple weapons. Like I would not recommend running Mercenary Jacket with gloves and not even bow badon. I wouldn't run it with that. You maybe could run it with Bloodletter, but most of the time it's going to be either seen with Battle Axe or One-Handed Spear. And then we have Hellion Jacket, which can work for most of these weapons except probably badon. I wouldn't run it with a badon. These two have a healing ability. So Bloodlust is whenever you deal direct damage, it'll heal you and only applies up to 7 times. And then Hellion Jacket is an AoE heal. So if you are fighting multiple opponents, Hellion Jacket is preferred over Mercenary Jacket, as well as Hellion Jacket can heal you based on how low your health is. On top of that, you can heal off the mobs. So if you are fighting around a ton of mobs, you can turn this on, run into the mobs, and essentially reset and get all your health back because of the leech that it's going to be doing against the mobs. I have the different capes. So we have Undead, which is a little bit more expensive option, but this is essentially a get out of jail free card unless you're fighting someone with an execute or someone with tons of tick damage like a fire staff, or someone who applied a lot of bleeds to you before you went invis. But when your health drops below 15%, you'll turn invisible for 6 seconds and you can still use abilities while you're invisible. Fort Sterling Cape. It activates when you get stunned, silenced, or rooted. This one's always good for a lot of one-shot builds that try to lock you down. This will save you in all those situations. Marlock Cape for more survivability. Gives you defense for 5 seconds when your health drops below 25%. This one's more of a small scale, like Bomb Group. And then Thur-Fri Cape is a hit or miss. It's a ton of extra damage, but you might accidentally pull mobs, so you have to be careful where you're using it. It's just situation dictates with this one, just because of the amount of mobs it'll be pulling, because it does chain. It sends a chain lightning out. We have the different boots, so you can use any of the type of boots depending on what you want. So there are armored boots, which have the healing run, rejuvenating sprint. You have royal sandals, which have defenseless rush, and it is unpurgeable because it is a toggle ability. So if you are open world, these sandals are amazing. And then we have hunter shoes with the refreshing sprint, which gives you movement speed and cooldown rate. So this one will increase your cooldowns in case you're trying to chase down. If you don't want to run royal sandals, but you are having trouble with mana, you could always use energetic sprint on a cheaper pair of cloth sandals instead of these ones because they are a little bit more pricey. And then, you know, you can use this to restore 12 energy every 1 second for the 5 seconds that you're running. Okay, going down to the weapons that we have picked out for this particular situation. We have one-handed spear, and particularly a tier 6 one-handed spear. Anything under will be missing these two abilities, which are amazing for tons of open world content. One-handed spear is a jack of all trades, master of none, so this one can do pretty much every type of content in some way. This thing can take down aspects, it can take down spirits in the road, it can take down multiple opponents, it can be used to get in and lock players down, it can be used to get away because of all of the slow abilities that it has, as well as it is a heavy sustain weapon. So when you are running one-handed spear, you're either going to have roast pork, or I would switch to roasted pyramid snapper, a little bit more pricey option, but if your build does cost a little bit more, roasted pyramid snapper will give you some more health and the lifesteal. Roast pork just gives you the little bit more lifesteal, but again, roasted pyramid snapper will give you more health to work with. We have battle bracers, which are essentially the master of mobility, because every single one of their abilities makes you move in some type of direction, so you can get in and get out easily with these weapons. They're also used to dive a lot of static dungeons. Mobility is king in open world, and that's going to be the trend with a lot of these weapons. The next one we have is battle axe, and the thing with this one is you can switch it out with, most likely you're going to use Musak, but if you are in a group, I would use Facebreaker just to give you a little bit more defense, so you can become a little bit more tanky. But again, with battle axe, you're going to want to have a tier 6 or up. If you are running 5.1, just put a flat 6 battle axe on, because you need to get this unlocked, Rending Rage, and you need to get your axes to 85 to get this unlocked. Rending Rage is absolutely amazing when it comes to the axes. And then the two abilities you'll be switching between is Adrenaline Boost or Battle Rush, depending on the different types of matchups. And then you can either go Lifesteal or Deep Cuts. So a lot of people switch between these. But again, this is another really sustainy weapon, probably more sustainy than the one-handed spear, just because of the self-heal that it has on the second Blood Bandit throw. We have Badon Bow, which has the poison, the frost shot for its mobility, as well as its slows. And then we have the Raging Storm, which does a crap ton of damage. And then we have the Bloodletter. Bloodletter is another amazing mobility weapon for open world with the Shadow Edge as well as the dash. We have Deadly Swipe and then the lunging stabs. All of these help it to become one of the stronger mobility weapons open world. Very hard to catch. And then a lot of builds you'll see, I put Cleric Robe down here because this is really the only weapon that you won't really be running this with any of the other weapons. Cleric Robe is seen as like a bursty option, so Bloodletters will go for a lot of single target DPS, and they'll try to whittle down their opponent as much as possible, as well as Cleric Robe adds more damage. And then this right here, when you activate it, you get 3 seconds of immune to damage, which can help buy you more time to get your execute off. When someone's below 40% health, you do almost 1,000 damage to them. So if you can get them in the threshold and then go to execute, that's how a lot of people will kill others with the Bloodletter. We have the different pots. So we have Invis, we have Healing, and we have Poison. All of these are kind of interchangeable. Most of the time when your build is more expensive, invisibility potions are the way to go. Do keep in mind though that if you attack, use an ability, or take damage, this will reveal you. So don't drink this while you have maybe curse stacks on you or bleed on you. Drinking this will completely just waste it. But this is going to be a lot more pricey. They're 11,000 a piece, almost 12k a piece, but this is a more safe option for a lot of more expensive builds. We have poisons. Poisons you'd probably most likely see on a Bloodletter or maybe even a battle axe. Someone that wants to burst, or actually battle bracers as well, they would throw the poison and then use their Falcon Smash. So a lot of them will kind of pair a poison pot with that because it does decrease the target's damage resistance as well as it does damage to the player. And then we have healing pots for more sustain depending on the build you're using. Omelet would be more paired with like Badon. That'd be a better one to use it with. Eel Stew. Eel Stew could work with... We have it with battle bracers, and I mean, it could work for Bloodletter as well. A lot of people will use Beef Stew for Bloodletter just because they're only going to use their E one time, so they don't really care about the cooldown. It's just a one hit combo, then execute. So a lot of them will just use Beef Stew just to get that extra damage. Eel Stew just increases cooldown and damage, and then Omelet increases your cast speed and cooldown rate. So the cooldown rate is amazing for this, but some of these weapons don't need cast speed. That's just something that you keep in mind. Most of the time I'm running Omelet with Bow, but Eel Stew could work with Bow as well. A lot of these armor pieces are a good place to start if you do want to start roaming open world solo or in a small group. A lot of these are going to work really well, and this is, you can't really go wrong with any of these. But I'm gonna throw a build together right now, so we're just gonna take a one-handed spear out for this one, and then I think I'm just gonna take Mage, Assassin Jacket, and just take I want to take Soldier Boots. Take Rejuvenating Sprint. Our build is worth 408k, but that's because of our the wolf that we have on. I'm just gonna take a Thepfer Cape. I could take an Undead, but you know, we're just gonna, for the sake of this video, I'm just not gonna take one out. Well, you know what? I will take one out. We'll just take an Undead Cape. Let's do Roast. So that's going to be it. I'm going to take this build out for the runs that we're going to be doing. The second point we're going to be talking about is going to be the best and worst locations to roam in the Black Zone. And this is going to be a short point, but I just want to kind of go over it for you guys because there are better and worse places to be roaming out here. And specifically right now in Fort Sterling, the Fort Sterling portal that we're currently at. If you are 2, maybe even 3 zones out from the portal zone, these are not the places you're going to want to be. And once you get more comfortable roaming, you'll be feeling okay. But if you are just getting into Blackstone roaming and you're trying to get it down, these are going to be some of the most dangerous locations, just because these are some of the most high activity zones. There's just so many people and so much traffic passing in and out. And a lot of the people that come from the portal zone that want to PvP, or they are looking to get some catches on people, they're going to go out to these 2 zones far. There's a lot of dungeon divers that are looking in these couple of zones. There's going to be tunnels and stuff that gankers might be sitting in just in case someone didn't time their invisibility correctly. When it comes to all of the portal zones, this is going to be the case. It's 2 to 3 zones out is going to be kind of like the more high activity zones. Another thing that you want to look for, so if we were to go over here, if we were to go 4 zones out and we go into this zone, if we see all of these hideouts, this place is going to be more active. There's tons of hideouts in this zone, which means there's a lot more chance for activity, and more activity means more guild members, as well as you should be checking over the top of the hideouts to see what their alliance is in those brackets. And as you can see, there is a ton of Arch alliance in this area, which means that not only will you see a lot of people, but the people that you'll be seeing are going to be allianced together, even if they're not in the same guild. So on top of that, there'll be even more people in there that are working together. The safest places to roam is when you push out like 4 zones deep into the black zone, anywhere deeper into the black zone. This is going to be the more safer areas. And if we are to look a little bit deeper, like this one only has 1 hideout. This one only has 1 hideout. This one only has, well, this one has no hideouts. This one has 1 hideout. This one has 2. Like when you start pushing deeper black zone, it's harder for guilds to get established out there, but there is going to be less activity. So this would be the best place for you to fame farm, for you to gather, for you to do different activities. This is not to say that there won't be gankers out there, but you will not be seeing as much activity as the portal zones, because the portal zones, it's so easy to get out and go back in with any type of loot and stuff that you're doing. You need to keep in mind that once you get near a rest, there's going to be a lot of activity near rests as well. So these are little kind of outposts in the black zone. So if let's just go look at the one we were just looking at. So if we open this up, it's like a little town, has its own bank in here. You can use them. You can go in there and bank. Just know that once you go in there, your journey back button is going to be locked to the rest. There's going to be a lot of activity outside the rest. Most of the time it's 1 zone or maybe 2 zones out. 3 zones out, it's not as bad just because there's not as much people at the rest. So this is just something to keep in mind about the best and worst locations. Just know that if you're always hanging out 2 to 3 zones out of a black zone portal zone and you keep dying and you're like, why the hell do I keep dying? The black zone sucks. Just know that you're roaming in one of the most populated and most high traffic places in the Outlands. So when you push out farther, that's when it gets a little bit better. And the last point we're going to talk about is gathering node practices. Now this one is going to be very important. So there is a mechanic in the game that happens when you dismount next to someone. And I can show you right now. We're just going to go out invis. We're just going to go out a random side. And when you dismount next to someone, there is going to be a red exclamation mark that pops up above your head. So we're going to run out right now. We just found a node. It's a 4.2. We're not actually going to collect it just because I didn't bring tools or anything. This is a mechanic that you can use when you are gathering different types of tiers of materials. And the thing is that most of the time that the nodes that you see in open world that are tier 6 and up, that's the ones that people will be collecting. Anything below, a lot of the times, if it's like 5.2, 5.1, especially if it's stone, even flat 7 stone, some people don't touch. But see, if we dismount next to them, we're going to get a red exclamation mark. You can't see it because of the silence. But he can see my mount. He knows my mount popped up. But I have an exclamation mark for 5 seconds, and it is counting down for my abilities. This is something that's very important because not only can you get that exclamation mark when there's someone that's invisible next to you, like someone that's invisible like this, but if someone is sneaking up on you, you can know that they're coming. So let me show you. So let's say we go up to this node and we are gathering it, right? I don't have a hammer on me, but what we would do is we would keep our mount out. We would gather, and between every tick, we're going to mount up and dismount and then hit it again. And what happens when we do the dismount is an exclamation mark will pop up if anyone is near on the edges of my screen, essentially in range enough to start a fight with them. So if someone is coming up and they invis pot like way over on the left side of the screen and they're walking right here, and I pull this number and they're right here, I'm going to get an exclamation mark. And then you can mount up real quick and start running because they're coming in. Maybe they're trying to stack up their assassin jacket damage, like the ambush, to get all that extra 40% damage. This is one of the practices that I've used for higher tier nodes. Like I'll use 7.1, 7.2, tier 8, tier 8.1 nodes. I'll use between every tick, I'll mount up and dismount. And this is some kind of mechanic that you can use to help protect you from some of the invis gankers that are trying to come in and one-shot you. Another thing to keep in mind too is if anyone is off screen, so let's say you are gathering this and they're over here, if you do have your audio up in game, which I highly recommend doing because audio cues in this game are amazing and can save you in tons of situations. When you get off of your mount, and I want you to test this in game the next time you do it, when you walk away, the mount will disappear, but it'll make a popping noise. And when this popping noise goes off, you can hear it. You can hear it off screen when you can't even see their names. If they dismount it to the left or right of your screen and you can't see them, but they walk away from their mount, you have enough audio range to hear the pop of their mount disappearing. And if you can get that sound audio cue down, you'll know instantly that someone is in the area, dismounted off their mount, and they left their mount, which means that they're probably walking in your direction or they are setting up for a gank. Another one too is that audio cue will still go off. They might get off their mount, drink their invis pot, and walk out of their mount radius. While they're invis, it'll disappear and it'll still make that popping noise. It can 100% give away their position if they do that. Now, this is something as well to keep in mind on the flip side. If you are trying to go out and gank, and you want to gank a node, you should probably get off your mount and disconnect from it farther away from the node so that someone can't hear it. So this tip can go both ways if you are trying to gank open world or if you are trying to protect yourself. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed and I hope that you learned some more to further your knowledge when it comes to roaming here in Albion Online. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see all of you in the next video, and I'll see all of you in Albion Online.